Take a deep breath in. Back. One more time. Breathe in. Back. Nice. Good job. Go ahead, bring your hands to your knees. Drop your chin to your chest. Breathe in.
Welcome to Asheville.
Take a deep breath in.
Where yoga
Exhale.
is yoga with goats.
I was surprised to learn that there was goat yoga with equal rights petitions and a lot of liberal people in such a conservative congressional district.
Yeah. Well, the thing about our district is it is kind of cut up a little bit.
What do you mean cut up?
The way that they do our districts. Asheville would be a very progressive district if it weren't for the fact that they've kind of cut it right down the middle.
Congressional districts in the U.S. are typically supposed to have similar populations, resemble a coherent geographic shape, and keep communities with similar interests together. Of the 435 congressional districts in the U.S., North Carolina has 13. In one of those districts, the city of Asheville's large liberal-leaning population made it competitive for a Democrat to win, until a 2011 redrawing divided the city's population into two otherwise conservative districts and permanently altered the political landscape. Asheville Mayor Esther Manheimer, a Democrat, has seen the city's representation dramatically change over the last decade.
The political environment here is far outside of the average of North Carolina, I would say.
After 2011 redistricting, how was Asheville affected?
It was dramatically affected. Asheville used to have a congressional district that took in all of Asheville and all of western North Carolina. And it supported Congressman Heath Shuler, who was an excellent balance of what you get when you add Asheville to western North Carolina, because Asheville's very liberal, but western North Carolina tends to be more conservative. And then with redistricting by the Republican state legislature, Asheville was split into two very conservative congressional districts where there's no question these districts don't represent where Asheville is on the political spectrum.
By splitting the city into two districts, Asheville's liberal population was absorbed by two other more populated conservative districts.
So what happened to the influence of voters in Asheville?
They feel that their voice has been eradicated by gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering, or the manipulation of district voting maps for the advantage of one political party, helped ensure that moderate Democrat Heath Shuler would be replaced by one of the most far-right Republicans in office today, Mark Meadows.
2012 is the time that we're going to send Mr. Obama home to Kenya or wherever it is. We're going to do it.
We caught up with Heath in his former district.
Well, here's the city, and it once was all the 11th district. And now Democratic-leaning precincts, which essentially took in the whole city of Asheville, are now in the 10th district.
Redistricting in North Carolina is done by state legislators from the party in power of the state house. In this case, the Republicans.
When they were drawing the lines, people were calling me, would you like to have this precinct if you'll give up this precinct? I'm like, that's not the way this should work. It's not fair to the community. Let's draw these lines the way they should be drawn, based upon fairness. Stop the gerrymandering.
The practice goes back to 1812, when Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry's Democratic-Republican Party engineered district lines to help his own party make gains in the state Senate. A cartoonist satirized Gerry's voting district as looking like a salamander, and the term gerrymander was coined. Since then, voting districts have been drawn much more precisely. After 2010, Republican state legislators took over the redrawing process and have since been able to make 10 of the state's 13 congressional seats safely conservative, despite there being more registered Democrats than Republicans. This GOP success in North Carolina was actually a part of a broader and highly effective national strategy called Redmap. We spoke to its architect, Chris Jankowski.
So you were the mastermind behind, I think, what will be known as a historic and the great 2011 gerrymandering, which is still in many ways dictating politics in our country. How did you decide to pursue that?
Well, it really started after '08 and Obama's historic win, where he really shifted a number of political dynamics in the country. And so as Republicans, we were looking at, okay, what's the path back? And one of it was obviously, how do we get control of the U.S. House of Representatives?
What is Redmap?
Redmap is a strategic plan to pool money on the national level and invest it into the key state legislative races where there was going to be a redrawing of congressional lines based on the census data and focusing on the states that were either going to lose a congressional seat or gain a congressional seat to have maximum impact. The direct results of the Redmap project on the state legislative level was to put Republicans at the table to draw the lines. People ask me about Redmap and wasn't it so unfair what you did? And I said, well, we took the rules that applied, we told them what we were going to do, and we did it. And we did it in a year that was obviously historic in itself.
Since Redmap, Democrats have lost more than 900 state legislature seats across the country. These state house wins have given Republicans unprecedented map-making power. Voting rights scholar and lawyer Nick Stephanopoulos showed us one of the modern tools legislators can use to redraw districts.
So this is Maptitude for redistricting. Maptitude will give you information about the populations of all of the districts that you're constructing. That would let you forecast how different districts would perform under different configurations in future elections. The city of Asheville, for example, is split in two because if it were kept whole, it might have been enough for a Democratic congressional district.
So what are you doing right now?
I've told Maptitude that I want to add counties to District 11, and I want them to come from District 10. You highlight as many of them as you want to assign, click the Assign button, and all of a sudden those counties will now be in the district you put them in, and they will no longer be in the old district. You can see all of a sudden District 11 just swallowed up 2/3 of District 10.
In 30 seconds.
Exactly. No Democrats can be winning those districts.
It's like a computer game.
It's a fairly easy computer game.
And the two main strategies to win that game and state elections are called cracking and packing.
Partisan gerrymandering always takes place through these two techniques of cracking and packing. Cracking refers to dispersing the other side's voters across a relatively large number of districts, and packing refers to over-concentrating the other side's voters in a few districts where their preferred candidates consistently win by enormous margins.
So just to be clear, this process is legal and it's necessary across the country. So what's the problem?
It's necessary because we need to make sure the districts have the same populations, but there is effectively no legal limit whatsoever to how extreme their partisan gerrymandering can be.
And some of the most extreme examples can be found in urban areas, which tend to have dense liberal populations. To see the effects of cracking, we went to North Carolina A&T State University.
North Carolina A&T is a historically black college and university. There are about 10,000 students here. So if you take 10,000 students, that's definitely enough, especially in a smaller congressional election, to swing a vote one way or the other. A&T was actually split into two different districts. Right now we're in Congressional District 13.
Okay.
This street is Laurel Street, and this is the street that divides the campus for voting purposes. Their vote is now cracked.
So that building right there is a different congressional district than where we're standing.
Yes.
50 feet away.
Right. So now that vote has been divided exactly in half, 5,000 students. Still significant, but when you put this campus in the broader map of the district, it's a much smaller, much weaker vote.
So while cracking is used to break up votes, packing clusters voters of one party together. We saw how Republican legislators applied this technique to smaller state house races.
Thank you, Bright Hope Well, for this opportunity once again, another Sunday morning, to come and stand before you. We thank
Republican mapmakers packed thousands of new minority voters into State House Democrat Garland Pierce's district, a move that pulled minority voters out of other races that they would have had more influence in.
So what's this here?
This is House District 48.
In the yellow.
In the yellow. And like I said, it starts, this is on the way to Greensboro, North Carolina, 220. And this is the furthest point in the south, which is Fairmont, Lumberton.
Representative Pierce's district now weaves in and out of 4 counties across 100 miles in the southern part of the state.
So why is the district shaped like this?
To stack and pack minorities.
Do you think that the makeup of the state legislature right now represents the North Carolina population as a whole?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. A neighborhood should never be split. Precincts should never be split. They use the power of the pen to really put themselves in a position to lead for a while.
That effort has now led to Republicans occupying 64% of the state assembly seats, despite there being more registered Democrats than Republicans in the state. This isn't just happening in North Carolina. The GOP went from controlling 14 state legislatures in 2010 to 32 this year. And as districts have been redrawn over that same time, maps that once contained blue are consistently turning red. With congressional approval ratings at historic lows, there's now bipartisan support for the termination of gerrymandering.
This is a very dynamic office you have here.
Well, this is the predator that I fought. See, when you're a real stud like me, then you fight the predator with your bare hands and wipe them out. Then here, the Terminator, traveling through time. Of course, if I could do this in real life, I would travel back to 1812 and wipe out the gerrymandering. In the movies, it would be easy because it just would, go into a room where they draw the maps and blow up the room, throw everyone out of the room, burn the maps, and then have honest people draw the district lines. Gerrymandering sucks because it's all designed for helping the politicians, but not the ordinary citizen.
Do you think that voters know that their voter influence is in some cases being taken away, or that their votes are being manipulated?
Because it's a very complicated issue and it's very hard to it's not a sexy issue that people can jump on and get involved with. So only recently it has now come out because there's such a lack of performance in Congress, there's such a low approval rating that people say, wait a minute, we got to do something about it.
When you first took office as governor of California, how bad was the gerrymandering here?
It was like Republicans were all locked into one district and Democrats were all locked into one district. So the Republicans had to be as far to the right as possible in order to win. The Democrats had to be as far as possible to the left. So how do you get them together to agree to something or to at least compromise to get something done? I remember before we did the redistricting reform in California, we had 265 congressional elections and only one in 10 years changed party hands. Only one. Think about that. We in California went all out and declared war on gerrymandering, and we have done away with it. But it's not going to ever be perfect unless you literally take it away from the legislators altogether. That's the ideal thing, is to take it away from them and to have ordinary folks create a commission that has no interest in the party. And the key thing now is for the Supreme Court to really understand the complexity of the issue.
Until now, the Supreme Court didn't have a way to mathematically determine the extent to which a district had been gerrymandered by party. But Nick Stephanopoulos may have a solution.
You created a statistical measurement called the efficiency gap. What is that?
So the efficiency gap is meant to be a measure of the extent of partisan advantage. The key here is to realize that both cracking and packing produce what political scientists call wasted votes. So it'll tell you in a single number the direction and the magnitude of a plan's partisan skew.
In October, the Supreme Court will hear arguments for a case about Wisconsin state assembly districts that could open the door for the efficiency gap to be used across the country.
Any precedent set in this case could also affect the balance of power in Washington, D.C.
If they do that, that's still a subjective standard, and you can be assured that there'll just be more lawyers and lawsuits challenging these lines.
Do you have any regrets for something that you helped to create?
No, I just don't. I did it because I actually think that putting Republicans in charge of state government is a good thing. Do I like polarization? No. Would I like compromise? Depends. But I don't feel bad at all about giving my party an advantage because I believe ultimately in what we're trying to do. And it looks like the Democrats, they're going to do it themselves. So there's become an arms race quality to it, which I don't like, but we don't intend to lose.